that people will say, oh, you know, I bet you this could help hurry up the birth, and give a dose that's not an appropriate dose, then you can get some serious consequences if you give it too early. But if we can train people and get it home to women, and there have been examples of this in Indonesia, also in India, I think, where they've given the women the pills and said, go ahead and use it after the baby's born. It's used very responsibly, and there have been really almost no adverse events. But that's where a lot of the crux of the prevention argument is. Who does the prevention is whose hands is the misoprostol delivered.
And that's what we're doing in Zambia. Women taking it themselves.
Yeah. Oh, before,
Okay.
right in front of Shannon. Yeah. No.
Oh, sorry. Sure. I just wanted to ask: is about the doses? Is it fairly standard, and also is it appropriate for 15 to 18-year-olds or 14 to 18-year-olds for pediatric?
Well, so in answer to the first question, I think the fair answer is the dose is standardizing. I mean, it's becoming more standard. We, like in that very first slide, the dose is shifting because we get a new research, and the research says use this dose or use that dose. I think right now we're at a pretty good place with respect to dosages for postpartum hemorrhage prevention and treatment. So there's more and more agreement about what the dose should be. As far as teenagers are concerned, well, if they're having babies, then they're also at risk for postpartum hemorrhage. Okay. So it's not an age thing. It's really it's sort of a more physiological thing. Okay. And again, then you can ask yourself, okay, teenagers giving birth, is she more or less likely to have a skilled birth attendant present or be at an institution? It may really depend on the environment. So yes, but it's perfectly okay for teenagers to take this in the setting of postpartum hemorrhage. Yeah. Shannon?
Just a question, I should know this, but I don't. Is PSI putting the drugs in safe delivery kits for postpartum hemorrhage, or have we looked at that?
In 2 countries we're doing it, but only in a pilot context. So in Tanzania with KFW funding, Lean was just out there working on it. She can give you more details. We're about to launch in 2 districts, a clean delivery pack with Miso. And Uganda is also doing a pilot of the same thing.
Do we suspect that will be a good use of the drugs, or we don't know yet?
We'll find out. I mean, yes, we suspect it would. The barrier we run into with misoprostol in a lot of countries is the same barrier we run into with clean delivery kits. Sort of is what you were speaking to, that there's a lot of pushback because the thought is that it will deter women from coming into facilities. So there are a lot of countries in which the government is against the clean delivery kit. And so we're doing what we can, where we can, and these pilots are a start to see how they work.
Well, we were looking into it for Wexton, but can you have the miso in all the same? If it's in the clean delivery kit, you couldn't have it in all the same outlets, right? It wouldn't be in a retail outlet. It'd have to be in some sort of pharmaceutical.
It depends on the laws in that country.
In that particular
for
country.
example, that was one big barrier because misoprostol is only allowed to go to the pharmacy level, and there's only 40 in the country versus the
Yeah,
drug
that's
shop
what we
level.
were
So
worried about.
it really depends on
I mean, we're still looking at the idea of putting it in with the CDKs, but we weren't sure if it would limit the distribution of the CDK itself.
Well, why can't you do both?
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, some. Because then you got to get it do all the packaging and see it. But yeah, it is possible.
I've discussed this with the reproductive health team in the past, but my own view is that ultimately, misoprostol will probably settle out at a selected treatment, like a low suspicion for hemorrhage, and then treat, as opposed to universal prevention. That's just my view based on where I see some of the data going, and sort of the easiest path to regulatory acceptability. But to give millions and millions of women misoprostol, only about 10% of whom actually need it, that might be a little too much in the way of over-treatment. Even if the drug is pretty cheap, it just sort of adds up. We don't have those data yet, but I think that over time we'll probably be giving it to people. We still may be giving it to the woman to use at home, but to say, use this when you've had this much bleeding. And,
When you suspect that you're.
Right. And we know that people have very standardized ways of measuring their own blood loss in communities. As I mentioned, like 2 kangas. Everybody, you know what a kanga is? A kikoi or a kanga or a sarong. 2 sarongs that are soaked or something like that, then use a misoprostol because you're already at risk. And we're not going to wait for 3, we're not going to wait for 4, but as soon as we think that you're bleeding more than the average person, give the misoprostol, as opposed to give it to everybody. That study hasn't really been done yet. There is a study like that being done, but we'll see where it comes down.
Maybe if there are others who want to stay and ask more questions,
I can stay.
time and we can stay, but if there are those of you who want to go and get your lunch because you weren't able to eat it here. Thanks.